I used to think extra room meant extra peace. A place for a Peloton we never used, an air mattress for my mom when she visits, a closet where winter coats go to hibernate. My wife turned it into a business pitch over pancakes. It's just sitting there, Lauren said, tapping her fork lightly like a metronome. My cousin Dylan is transferring to UT for the semester. He needs a place. We could help him and put a dent in the car payment. Cousin, I repeated. We live in Austin, a city where everyone is someone's bandmate, barista, or cousin. On your mom's side or your dad's? Mom's, she said without blinking. Aunt Cheryl's boy. He's quiet. He plays intramurals. He'll barely be here. Our two-bed, two-bath sits above a nail salon and a coffee shop that smells like warm beans and ambition. Rent isn't cheap. I'm a paramedic. Lauren manages social media for a wellness brand that believes crystals can fix the economy. We weren't drowning, but we weren't surfing either. The idea of cash that didn't require a 12-hour shift was interesting. We'll need a written agreement, I said, because my job has taught me two things. Ask the boring questions first, and your gut is a smoke alarm, and we should check the lease. She sighed, not annoyed exactly, just ready to move past paperwork into the movie in her head where her generosity solves everything. I'll handle it, she said. He starts next week. He showed up on a Wednesday with one duffel, a guitar, and a cardboard bakery box tied with twine. He was taller than I expected and had that slightly unshaven look you either earn by working nights or curate on purpose. He hugged Lauren like he knew the choreography. Hey, cuz, he said, grinning. His voice had a scratch to it like he'd been yelling at a game the night before. Dylan, she said warmly, this is Mark. Jake, I said, holding out my hand. Close. Right. Sorry, he said, but his eyes flicked to Lauren like she'd told him something about me that didn't end with a period. He set the bakery box on our counter. For the house, he said, popping the lid. A chocolate cake with a glossy finish, gold flakes, and white cursive piped across the top. Welcome home, babe. I felt the color move out of my face and then return, slow and hot. Lauren laughed too bright, hands up like she could slow the moment down. Oh my God, that's not for here, she said quickly. They mixed up my order at the bakery. It was supposed to say, welcome home, babies, for my coworker's newborn. Weird, right? I told Dylan we'd drop it off after dinner. She looked at him, and something passed between them that I didn't have a name for then. He blinked and nodded, playing along like someone who'd been learning lines on the drive over. Congrats to the baby, I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to a man watching a parade from behind glass. We cut it anyway. What else do you do when a cake appears in your kitchen with a word you don't want to own? It tasted like sugar and a dentist bill. Dylan ate 2 slices and licked his fork and told a story about Aunt Cheryl that had the details right but the tone off, like someone doing an impression based on a transcript. He moved in with the confidence of someone who has never cleaned a drain. Toothbrush in the hall bath. Hoodie slung over the dining chair. Within a day, his guitar found a permanent spot by the window. Within a week, his deodorant sat on the edge of my sink. He's getting comfortable, I said gently while we brushed our teeth. Lease says no subletting if the landlord finds out. Stop, Lauren said, spitting, and gave me the look that had ended a dozen arguments before they began. He's family. We'll square it later. Can you not be the city inspector for 5 minutes? I swallowed my lecture. It's not romantic to quote a paragraph number at bedtime. Night 3. Dylan's shoes sat under the coffee table like they were learning the room by smell. Night 5. He stood in our kitchen at midnight making scrambled eggs like he was auditioning for a breakfast commercial. No shirt, pajama pants hanging just low enough to have an opinion. Lauren patted out in an oversized sweatshirt and laughed at something he said in a voice I knew from a younger version of us. It was fine. I made it fine. I microwaved leftover carnitas and told myself that not every feeling needs a story yet. 2 weeks in, Lauren started a campaign against my snoring. You woke me up 5 times, she said one morning, sunglasses on at 7 a.m., like our bedroom had turned into a club. You've slept through tornado sirens, I said, and Dylan plays rhythm guitar for the refrigerator. New rule, she said breezy. On nights before I have early calls, you crash in the den. It's not punishment, it's logistics. It's my bed, I said quietly. I know, she said, not looking at me, and it's my sleep. The first night on the couch felt like college with better upholstery. The second felt like a demotion. The third was an eviction under a soft blanket. Dylan liked to take long showers. I learned his shampoo brand by its coconut sugar smell. He left damp towels like an apology. Lauren started buying oat milk, which she had never liked before, and a cereal Dylan claimed he needed for macros. Neighbors notice things before spouses admit them. Mrs. Alvarez, 2 doors down, caught me on the stairs and asked how many people live in our place now, eyebrows high enough to make the question a mailing address. Temporary, I said. Cousin. Oh, honey, she said, and patted my forearm like she was checking me for a pulse. Packages started arriving late at night, not the usual Amazon hum of apartment life. Plain boxes with heavy tape and no branding, 3 or 4 between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Some nights, a car idled curbside while a man with a baseball cap waited, looking at his phone like he was counting. Dylan would open the door a crack, exchange a box for a smaller box or a handshake, and the car would slide away. Bike parts, Lauren said when I asked. He's flipping vintage stuff for gas money. Bike parts come in the day, I said, and they smell like grease, not perfume. Can you not do cop voice, she said. You're not on duty. I let it go because fights at 1 a.m. add nothing good to a calendar. On a Friday, our landlord, Mr. Morales, texted about a quick filter check. He's a retired teacher who still wears short-sleeve button-downs with pins in the pocket. He likes to inspect his properties himself twice a year, not because he's nosy, but because he doesn't trust the management company to treat buildings like people live in them. Tomorrow at 10, he wrote. Great, I replied, before I could think about whether Lauren would want to be asked. Can we not, she said later, reading over my shoulder. It's messy. He has the right, I said. It's literally in the lease. She chewed her lip and nodded. Fine, I'll tidy. Saturday morning, Lauren stood in the hallway lit by our imperfect skylight, hands on hips, surveying as if staging a photo. Dylan wandered in, shirtless again, and grabbed a protein shake from the fridge. Mr. Morales arrived at 10,005 with a canvas bag full of filters and that teacher energy that makes you want to sit up straighter even if you're in your own house. Buenos dias, he said, warm, and then noticed Dylan. We have company. This is my cousin, Lauren said quickly. Dylan, he's staying for the semester. Mr. Morales' eyes did a tiny thing like a calculator discovering a division by 0. Ah, he said, the lease says no subletting without written consent. He's not paying, Lauren said. It's family. Then he is a guest, Mr. Morales said, nodding like he was putting a label on a file. He looked at me. And your guests are temporary. Yes, I said, temporary. He replaced the filter, checked the outlets with a tester, and thanked us. At the door, he paused. Someone installed a second lock on the bedroom, he said mildly, pointing with his chin. The lease does not allow additional locks. I looked where he pointed. Our bedroom door, which used to have one knob and one lock, now had 2, a small, discreet slide near the frame. It was loose, Lauren said. Dylan fixed it. With a slide that can't be opened from the outside, Mr. Morales said, still in teacher voice, not cop voice. Please remove it today. After he left, Lauren slammed the bathroom door and cried. He embarrassed me, she said, voice damp. He protected us, I said. He's not the enemy. She didn't answer, but her breathing made the mirror fog. That afternoon, I made a polite attempt at a conversation with Dylan. We need some house rules, I said. Trash days are Tuesday and Friday. Please keep late deliveries to a minimum, and maybe wear a shirt in the kitchen. He smiled like a cat that knows where you keep the treats. Got it, man, he said. Sorry about the shirt. We're all family here, right? Right, I said. My mouth tasted like a penny. Lauren's group of friends came over that night for games and mocktails, which meant loud laughter and card games with the rules changed to fit the joke. Dylan held court, dealing like he owned the table. At midnight, he pulled out his guitar and started strumming a song that sounded suspiciously like the one Lauren and I danced to in our kitchen the night we signed the lease. They harmonized on the chorus. It landed in my chest like a key turning in an old lock that no longer belongs to you. I went to the balcony and watched South Congress glow. The coffee shop downstairs stacked chairs. A couple argued in soft tones by their car and then touched foreheads like the argument was a prelude. I stayed outside until the song ended and the night went thin. Sunday morning, I made breakfast the way I do when I need control eggs, bacon, toast, the assembly line of love. Lauren wandered in wearing one of my t-shirts with the sleeves rolled. She kissed my shoulder like a polite secretary. Dylan walked in and said, "Morning, babe," to the room, and then, catching himself, Lauren, he grinned at me. Inside joke. What's the joke? I asked. He winked like he'd invented the concept. Long story. Lauren's phone buzzed on the counter. A banner lit her lock screen. Just arrived. She snatched it up like it was a bird that might fly. Who's arriving? I asked. Delivery, she said. Groceries. We don't get groceries on Sunday mornings. We go to H-E-B after work like people who still cook on purpose. 3 hours later, there were 5 more boxes by the door. I set up our little doorbell camera months ago after someone stole a doormat from the neighbor, the kind of crime that makes you both laugh and check your deadbolt. I opened the app and scrolled through the night. Between midnight and 3, the camera had caught 4 different deliveries, a guy in a hoodie, a girl with a tote, a man in a reflective vest who didn't work for any service I recognize, all handing boxes to Dylan at the door. In 2 clips, money traded hands. In the third, Dylan posed with a package and a photo like he was verifying receipt, then immediately handed it back. I took screenshots because a part of me is older than my face. At dinner, I set my phone on the table and said, "Tell me what this is." No accusation in my voice, just the kind of question an adult asks when he wants an adult answer. Lauren watched the clip of Dylan taking a box. Her face didn't move. "Community marketplace flips," she said. "People here don't want to pay shipping. Dylan lists for them, takes a small fee, then gives the thing to the buyer. It's gigs, don't be classist." "He's selling from our address," I said. "We are the address." "It's fine," she said. "Everyone does this now." Not everyone tells the camera to stop being rude. On Tuesday, a letter slid under the door while we were at work. Mr. Morales left it himself in pen that loops. Notice to cure lease violation. It had words like unauthorized occupant, unapproved lock, nuisance due to increased foot traffic, 30 days to remedy or vacate. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time aloud because sometimes hearing paper turns it into reality. Lauren read it, crumpled it, smoothed it, crumpled again. "He's taking it personally because he likes you," she said. "He's always had a weird dad crush on you." "He has a weird crush on compliance," I said, "which I happen to share." Dylan walked in mid-sentence. "What's up?" he asked, reaching for the letter. I placed my hand on it gently, the way you place a hand on a sleeping dog to say, "Stay." "House business," I said. He smirked. "Sounds serious." "Is," I said. After he left the room, Lauren leaned in. "You are making him feel unwelcome," she whispered, "like the walls take gossip to court. He's family." "You keep saying that," I said, "and I keep waiting to meet Aunt Cheryl." She looked away, then back. "You met her at the wedding," she said. "She wore the teal dress." "At our wedding, your aunt in teal was named Susan," I said. Lauren blinked too slowly. "Whoa!" That night, while Lauren showered, Dylan knocked on the den door where I was pretending to read. "Can we talk?" he said, leaning on the frame like every magazine cover about masculinity. "You seem tense." "I'm not tense," I said. "I'm a person whose lease is in jeopardy." He sat on the arm of the chair like the room belonged to him and let his knee touch my shoulder casually. I stood, not dramatic, just away. "You and Lauren," he said, like he was asking about the weather. "Are you good?" "We're married," I said. "So, complicated and hopeful." He nodded like he was collecting data for a story he would tell later. "I care about her," he said. "As her cousin," I said. He smiled, slow. "Titles are funny," he said. "They change." "What's your title here?" I asked, because on paper, it's guest. He stood and cracked his neck, then leaned in as if to pick something invisible off my shirt like we were close enough to do that. "Relax, man," he said softly. "You snore. She's tired. I'm here to help." "Help is not what you're doing," I said, each word its own step. "Help is not night deliveries. Help is not changing my locks. Help is not replacing me with a t-shirt and a song." He laughed, not cruel, just confident. "You're not being replaced," he said. "You're being reprioritized." He left me in the doorway with a sentence that felt like a draft of a text he planned to send later. "Wednesday," Mr. Morales called, not texted. "I prefer to resolve things face to face," he said, "but I also document." "I appreciate documentation," I said, surprising neither of us. "I want to fix this." "You remove the extra lock today," he said. "You limit the traffic, and your guest, family or not, needs to be gone by the end of the month unless we sign a formal addendum with references, deposit, and proof of enrollment. I will not be a landlord to a ghost." "I understand," I said. "He's not on the lease. He shouldn't be here." I hung up and looked at the wall where our wedding photo hangs. Lauren in a dress that made my lungs forget how. Me in a suit I still keep dry cleaned out of respect. In the picture, we are walking down the aisle through thrown lavender, both of us looking forward in the same direction. In our real apartment, Lauren was looking in the direction of the den where I now slept. I took a screwdriver to the bedroom slide while Lauren was out for drinks with the girls. The lock popped off cleanly, 2 holes left like eyes surprised to be open. I put the screws in a bag and the bag in the drawer. 10 minutes later, the doorbell camera pinged. Another late night drop, this one bigger, 2 men carrying a box between them like a piece of furniture. Dylan signed on a phone, then started to drag the box inside. He saw the missing lock through the open bedroom door. He froze. He looked up at the camera and smiled directly into it like a person who knows where every lens is. Later, after midnight, I heard a whisper fight in the hallway. "You promised," Lauren said, a hiss. "I didn't promise him anything," Dylan whispered back. "He's soft. He'll fold. He always folds." "I told you not to say that," she said. "He can hear." I could, and I felt something in me, a hinge maybe, stop trying to swing. Thursday morning, Lauren made coffee and spoke in a language of peace offerings. "I booked Mr. Morales a gift card to that breakfast place he likes," she said. "We'll call it a misunderstanding. I'll tell him the boxes are for a charity." "We are the charity," I said, "and I'm done being one." "Don't do this," she said quietly. "Don't turn our life into a checklist." "It turned itself," I said. "I'm just reading it." I skipped dinner that night and sat in my car 2 blocks away until my pulse understood the assignment. When I came back, the apartment smelled like takeout and tequila, laughter, a song I used to have on a playlist for us. I stood outside the door and watched the peephole glow. I listened to my own breath until it didn't belong to me. I opened the door. Dylan stood in the kitchen, arms slung over Lauren's shoulders, a casual half hug that said 100 things without involving a single word. She didn't move his hand. He didn't move it either. Their bodies had that lazy familiarity of people who have already explained something to themselves and are done explaining it to anyone else. "Hey," Lauren said, too bright, "you're home." "I live here," I said. "Feels like all of us do," Dylan said, smiling. He squeezed her shoulder once, a small pulse of possession, then let go. I walked to the counter, picked up my glass, and set it down. My hands were steady. That felt like a mercy. "Dylan," I said, "you have until the end of the month. After that, anything you leave goes in the hall. Mr. Morales is inspecting. The lock is gone. The deliveries stop now." He rolled his eyes like a teenager. "Okay, Dad." "I'm not your dad," I said. "I'm the person on the lease." He looked at Lauren, then back at me, and, for the first time, a shadow of calculation crossed his face. Lauren opened her mouth like she might say the thing that would make the scene end well. No words came. I went to the den and closed the door and looked at the couch that had learned my body. My phone buzzed. Mrs. Alvarez, bless her unstoppable heart. Her text read, "I don't want to meddle, but last night I saw your cousin take 3 boxes from a car at 1 a.m. That's not cousins, that's Craigslist. Be careful." I typed back, "Thank you, we're handling it." I wasn't sure if we were yet, but the sentence felt like a step. Friday morning, an envelope sat under the door. This one wasn't from Mr. Morales. It was from the HOA, a cheerful letterhead above a paragraph that said, "Complaints have been received regarding excessive foot traffic and commercial activity from your unit. Cease and desist." Words like fines and lease termination did a little dance down the page. Lauren put the letter down and stared at the wall like it had betrayed her. Dylan laughed softly, that same confident sound, and said, "HOAs are a joke. They send those for potted plants." "Not this one," I said. He shrugged. "Then they can meet my lawyer." "You have a lawyer," I said. "Everyone has a lawyer in Austin," he said, "or a friend with a pre-law minor." I looked at Lauren, and she was somewhere else, miles away on a roof deck I couldn't follow her to. That afternoon, I found the cake box from day one in the back of the pantry behind the flour and the Costco-size olive oil kept, absurdly, like a keepsake. The twine was still in the box, looped carefully, the kind of looping you do to preserve a moment. I sat at the table with it in front of me and thought about all the times we walk right past the first sentence of a story because it's iced in a pretty font. The doorbell chimed again. Another package, smaller this time, slid forward into the frame. I opened the door before Dylan got there and picked it up. "Hey," he said, annoyed for the first time, reaching. "That's mine." "It's addressed to this unit," I said. "To my address." "Careful," he said, voice dropping. "You don't want to make this hard." It's already hard, I said, and closed the door. His knuckles landed on the wood, 3 polite taps that meant nothing polite. I stood on the other side and waited for him to remember that a door is a boundary, not a suggestion. Behind me, in the kitchen, Lauren whispered my name like a question that still had a chance to be answered. My phone lit on the counter with a text from Mr. Morales. I can come by Monday with the addendum if you want to formalize, or with the locksmith if you don't. Let me know which door I'm opening. I stared at the screen. In my head, the choice wasn't complicated anymore. It was a hinge. And in the hallway, outside the door, a man who wasn't my cousin kept knocking, slower now, like he had time. I put the cake box in the trash, shut the cabinet gently, and picked up my phone. Monday came with the kind of clarity that pretends it was always there. I texted Mr. Morales, locksmith. He replied with a simple thumbs up, then 3 dots, then please have guest present. We will inventory property in common areas. I brewed coffee like it was ballast. Lauren came out in one of my hoodies, sleeves swallowed to her knuckles, and watched the drip like it might explain me. Is he really bringing a locksmith? She asked. Yes, I said, because we installed a lock we weren't allowed to, because we turned our doorway into a checkout line, because we invited a man to live here who isn't on any paper. Her face tightened, then smoothed into something I used to misinterpret as composure. You're not wrong, she said. You're just thorough. Thorough is how people stay housed, I said. At 9:58, Mr. Morales arrived with a tool bag, a man in a company polo, and the HOA president, a blonde woman named Kendra who wore a necklace of apartment keys like an ironic saint. Dylan padded out in slides, saw the trio, and made a face like the universe was flirting with him. Hi, Kendra said brightly, flipping to a tab in a binder. We're here to keep things neighborly. Morning, Dylan said, leaning on the island like it was a bar. Who's the party planner? Mr. Morales looked at me and I nodded. We're removing the unauthorized lock, he said, and we need to talk about occupancy. It's fine, Dylan said. I'm family. Kendra's smile did not move. She pointed to the binder. The board has received complaints about high foot traffic after quiet hours and commercial activity. That is a violation of Section 8.2. Tonight we will be assessing a fine to the unit. Fine? Lauren repeated. How much? $200 per incident, Kendra said cheerfully. We've logged 7. We can work with you on a payment plan. Lauren went very still, a stillness I recognized from sirens the moment a body chooses between fight, flight, and performance. Then her phone rang. Her mom. She hit speaker because both hands were busy holding the counter for balance. Sweetie, do you know a Dylan? Her mom asked without hello. Someone named Dylan emailed me, said he's your cousin, asked for our family's address for FAFSA verification. I told him we don't have a Dylan in the family, and if he's related, he should know that. The air changed. Kendra looked up from her keys with polite curiosity. Mr. Morales' pen paused over his pad. Dylan did a micro shrug like men do when caught between a truth and a laugh. Aunt Cheryl's son, Lauren said, grasping for the script. Remember? You don't have an Aunt Cheryl, her mom said gently. You have an Aunt Sherry. Her son is Evan. He lives in Boise, and he hates Austin. The call hung there like a curtain no one wanted to pull down. Dylan broke the silence. Mrs. Morales, he said, aiming for charm and missing the name. I think there's been a... Mr. Morales, the landlord corrected mildly, not playing. I took a breath. He's not your cousin, I said to Lauren softly. He's your ex. Lauren pressed her fingers into her forehead like she could rub away a word. When she spoke, it was small. We dated a long time ago, she said. It doesn't matter. Titles are funny, Dylan echoed from the other day, almost amused. Mr. Dylan, Mr. Morales said, switching into teacher cadence. Are you a student at UT? Yes, Dylan said without blinking. Kendra's eyebrows went up. Great. Student ID and current enrollment letter, please. Dylan's mouth opened and closed. Their system is down, he said. UT's system, Kendra said, making a note. Right. The locksmith had the slide lock off in under a minute. He handed me the small piece like a pulled tooth. I put it in a drawer I didn't plan to open again. Right then, the doorbell camera pinged. A short knock, then a box appeared. Instinct moved me. I opened the door. A woman in a UPS polo that fit like it hadn't yet decided its job held a handheld scanner. Signature for 2B, she said. I'll sign, I said before Dylan reached. Too late. I need the person on the manifest, she said, peering at the screen. It's Low. Lauren's face flinched at the old nickname. Dylan's eyes flicked to her in that way that men use instead of an apology. Kendra stepped forward politely. I'm happy to note the discrepancy, she said. HOA tracking deliveries will be easier with specifics. The driver signed, shrugged, and left. Dylan exhaled through his nose like this had gotten boring. Okay, he said, spreading his hands. What now? Now you pack, Mr. Morales said, polite as a librarian. I'll give you until sundown. After that, I call a constable for a civil standby, and we place your things in the corridor. You can't do that, Dylan said, voice finally losing the velvet. I have rights. You have guest status under Texas Property Code, Mr. Morales said, unruffled. Guests don't sign leases. Guests say thank you and leave. Dylan looked at Lauren like it was her line. She didn't meet his eyes. Instead, she looked at me, something wild and pleading unfurling in hers. Jake, please, she said. Not like this. Not with a parade. Then help him pack, I said. Make it quiet. Dylan's jaw clicked. You win, he said to me, cold. Congrats. Not winning, I said. Ending. He zipped his duffel like it owed him money, shoved in the guitar, grabbed his deodorant off my sink, swept chargers and hoodies off chairs with the efficiency of a man who has moved out of a lot of places fast. At the door, he paused, pivoted, and went to the pantry. He pulled out the cake box. It was gone. He frowned at the trash. I stood still. He smirked, the last petty performance, and left. The apartment exhaled in a way I didn't expect. Sound came back, traffic, the coffee grinder downstairs, the soft knock of a cabinet that always needs a little lift. Kendra handed me a stack of forms and a yellow carbon copy of the fines. We can reduce some of these if you attend the next board meeting and explain the guest situation, she said kindly. But the commercial activity, those stand. She left. Mr. Morales stayed. I like you, he said to both of us, then corrected, I liked you together. He looked at me. If you want to add her back to the lease, we can, after this is cleaned. He turned to Lauren, gentler than the situation demanded. If you wish to apply on your own, you may. I will need documentation. He paused. No cousins. After he left, the apartment felt like a stage after a play empties, set pieces, lamps that looked like they might turn themselves off. Lauren sat on a stool and stared at her hands. I deserve an Oscar for stupidity, she said. I'm not an audience, I said. She nodded, wiped under her eyes, left her hand there like a brace. He messaged me after I posted that video of us painting the dining room, said the color looked like our old place, said he was moving here, said he just needed a couch for a week. And you offered our bed, I said, not asking. I offered my love of a problem I thought I could fix, she said. He's good at asking for redemption in a way that makes you feel important. You were always important, I said, just not to him. She looked up like that sentence surprised her. You're very calm, she said, almost accusatory. I ran out of yelling 24 hours ago, I said. Calm is what's left when the math is done. That night, I changed my passwords, not because I expected malice, but because I am tired of leaving doors open and calling it trust. I slept in my bed with the door propped because Daisy, that's Mrs. Alvarez's dog, has learned to push her way in for a midnight hello, and it makes the building feel like a village. In the morning, a man in a reflective vest and a clipboard, the building's contract security, knocked and asked for a statement about unauthorized exchanges. He used words like pattern and buyer complaints. 2 packages dropped outside had been reported as never received. Our door camera told a different story. He asked if I wanted to involve police. I shook my head. Document, I said. If charges come, I'll sign what you need. Around lunch, an email from the HOA, fines assessed to the unit, attached invoice due in 30 days. It named Lauren as responsible party by virtue of initiating the guest occupancy per household declaration. I didn't know we had such a thing. Turns out a text she sent to Kendra 3 weeks back. My cousin Dylan will be staying with us for the semester. I'll manage him. Counted. Karma is sometimes a screenshot with a timestamp. Lauren came home with the brown envelope and put it on the counter like an offering. Inside, an itemized list from Kendra, the HOA bylaws highlighted, a reduction if we attended their meeting and baked the board brownies. I would have laughed a year ago. Now I nodded at the absurdity like it was a neighbor I didn't choose. Let me pay it, Lauren said. It's my circus. Split it, I said. Then we split other things. She swallowed. You mean our life, she said. You mean! I mean the lease, I said first. Mr. Morales will reissue it in my name. He said you can apply or not, your choice. And I mean a lawyer, not a fight, just paper. She didn't argue. She just looked at me the way people look at a house with smoke in the eaves, wishing, already knowing. We did the board meeting, which was half crank and half therapy. Kendra ran it like a homeroom teacher. I spoke in nouns: unauthorized lock removed, guest departed, delivery ceased, notice acknowledged. Lauren apologized without adjectives. 2 fines were waived, 5 remained. We paid them. Kendra hugged us because HOA presidents are just people who like rules and potlucks, and then told me her babysitter was pre-law and could notarize anything. I told her I'd keep that in mind. Mr. Morales came with a new lease 2 days later. He brought empanadas because paperwork tastes better with something in your hand. He set the documents down, pointed where to sign, and added a sticky note on the signature line that said, "Choose peace. The man knows his tenants." I signed. Lauren didn't. She stood in the kitchen with her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it could give a blessing. The locksmith returned and replaced the front door cylinder. I handed Lauren a key. She put it in her pocket and took it out and put it on the counter. "I'm going to my sister's for a while," she said. "Okay," I said. "Do you want me to take the Peloton?" she asked, absurdly practical. "Or do you want the illusion of good intentions?" "Take it," I said. "It's yours. So is the illusion." She laughed, then hiccuped, then did something generous that hurt. She touched my cheek the way she used to when we didn't know better and said, "You were always the man I should have been honest with." "You were the woman I wanted to spend my whole life boring," I said. "I still like boring." She left with 2 suitcases, a plant that only listens to her, and the sweater she knows I love to borrow. The apartment felt bigger. The bedroom felt true. I slept through the night without dreaming. I was a hallway. In the morning, Mrs. Alvarez knocked with tamales because neighbors are better than therapy some days. She asked no questions. We ate in silence. Daisy licked my knee and then the plate. On her way out, Mrs. Alvarez said, "You did right. You were kind. Those are different skills." I nodded like a student who got a good grade in a class he didn't want to take. A week later, a plain envelope arrived addressed to Unit 2B occupant. It was from a platform you could call the Mall of the Internet, confirming permanent restriction for prohibited marketplace activity linked to our address. It included language about multiple accounts, misuse of porch pickup, and returns fraud. It wasn't addressed to Dylan, it was addressed to Consequence. I sent a photo of the letter to Lauren. She replied, "Thank you. Then, why does being wrong take so long?" I didn't answer because some questions want a poem and I only had spreadsheets. I hired a lawyer named Emery whose office smelled like lemon cleaner and well-used printers. She listened, drafted a no-fault separation agreement, and added a clause prohibiting either of us from hosting guests for more than 3 consecutive nights without written consent until the divorce finalized. "Consider it a boundary with a stamp," she said. "Judges like stamps." Lauren signed. We divided our small empire like people who still want the other to have chairs. She kept the wedding china we never used. I kept the knives that have already learned my coconut hand. No alimony, no drama. Her fines were her own. She paid them. The HOA sent me a welcome email that read like a hymn to compliance. On a Saturday in late spring, I went down to the coffee shop and the barista said, "Back to black drip," because the oat milk era was over. I said yes and tipped too much. A guy with a guitar case walked past, and for a second my lungs did that old thing and then didn't. I watched South Congress wake up. I liked the way the street didn't care about my story. Dylan never reached out. Word through the building said he tried a short stay 2 streets over before their landlord did a midnight inventory and handed him an ancient suitcase he hadn't earned. The UPS driver and the HOA filed their reports. Mr. Morales keeps his pin by the door. Lauren texted me a photo 2 months later from a rental with afternoon light and an empty wall. "No extra locks," she wrote. I read the lease. I sent a thumbs up and a link to a Thai place with good noodles because whoever she is next deserves decent takeout. I still sleep with the bedroom door cracked. Not for Daisy anymore. She moved away with Mrs. Alvarez's son, but for the idea that heir is supposed to move through a home. I hung our wedding photo in the hall where I don't have to look at it to find my socks, but I can let it see me not ruining my life. If you're reading this in a small apartment with a spare room and an argument that starts with, "It's just for a while," listen to the smoke alarm under your ribs. Ask for paper, ask for titles, watch who changes locks, watch who thinks the camera is rude. Family is a word. So is guest. So is ex, even when someone spells it COUSIN. What would you have done if the cake in your kitchen said, "Welcome home, babe," and someone you love called it a typo? Would you have eaten it and swallowed the word, or thrown it out and changed the lock? Would you have let cousin take late night deliveries out of your living room, or drawn a line where your lease does? Sound off in the comments, be honest. If this story kept you listening, hit like so. It reaches the next person staring at a spare room and a story that doesn't add up. Subscribe if you want more long, messy, maddeningly human stories where the twist isn't cinematic. It's a locksmith's click, an HOA letter, and a man who chose boring peace over exciting chaos.